Welcome back, everyone, to the Winning in Life Without Losing Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Peed. Today, we're going to continue our series on Confessions of an Enneagram Number. And today, we're going to have with us one of my great friends, Lindsay Behr. She is an Enneagram number 2. We're going to talk to her in just a second. But before we do, I want to remind you that if you're listening on any audio podcast platform, you can leave us a 5-star review and leave a comment on there that would be super amazing. You can also, if you're watching on YouTube, you can also subscribe, and ring the bell. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, all the places at Dustin Peed. Or for more information about how I can help you or your organization, you can go to dustinpeed.com. I think all the business is out of the way. So today, as we're diving more and more into these true kind of confessions of an Enneagram, I was going down my list of people that I know that are certain Enneagram numbers or that identify with certain Enneagram numbers, and I was asking my wife, I'm like, who do we know that's a 2? And I think either she told me or Blake told me, which Blake is Lindsay's husband, told me, like, oh yeah, we think Lindsay's. Oh yeah, Sarah said I think Lindsay's a 2. So then I texted Blake and I said, hey, is Lindsay an Enneagram 2? He goes, yep. I go, okay, great, perfect. So
I might
Lindsay
be
was
the
kind of
newest 2 that ever 2'd.
the biggest 2 that ever 2'd. I love that. That's what we're going to call this episode. So yeah, welcome, Lindsay. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Lindsay and I have known each other for a long time. If you've seen Blake on my show, and you'll see him again when we get to Enneagram 8s, but we've known Blake and Lindsay for a long time since our ministry days back in Indiana. So it's been over a decade, I think, since we've known each other and done life together and laughed and cried and built and created with each other. And so it's all kinds of fun stuff. And we got some great history there. So I'm super excited to have her here today. And I love how much she shares and how especially for being a 2, how vulnerable she is and putting herself out there with a lot of things. And so before we get into the Enneagram content, I want to tell you all that she is also like founder of this amazing organization called Yet We Thrive. You can go to yetwethrive.com or you can find them on Instagram at Yet We Thrive. Can you just give us like a 30-second synopsis of Yet We Thrive and why people should care about it?
Yes. So Yet We Thrive, we're a nonprofit. We're a community for women who have lost babies or have struggled with infertility, trying to get pregnant and haven't been able to. Our main goal is to help women thrive even in the midst of impossible circumstances. We believe that nobody should sit alone on their couch wondering if they're the only one. And so that's what we try to do. We have a podcast, like I said, we're on Instagram, and we have a blog, and we just really try to make women feel not alone.
I love that. That's probably also the most Enneagram 2 thing I've ever heard, but also super amazing. And I think a big testament to Lindsay and her character. So if you're wondering, like, who is this girl Dustin's chatting with? I think everything that she just said is a good way to kind of sum up, like, who Lindsay is as a person. And so we're just going to dive right in here about this whole Enneagram 2 journey. I don't have many Enneagram 2, at least confirmed Enneagram 2s in my life, but I do have some preconceived notions of them that I'm hoping I get corrected today. So before we get started, I want to read Jackie Brewster's Enneagram coach, Enneagram with JB. We'll put her stuff up here in the show notes and at the end for you to see. But a friend of ours and my family, she has a great resource for several great resources for Enneagram, and one of them is these really great box of cards that you can kind of really break down and see what all the ins and outs of each Enneagram are. But it begins with an overview. And so I wanted to begin with just a simple paragraph overview of Enneagram 2s before we dive in with Lindsay. And so this is what Jackie says. Jackie says that 2s view the world through their connections and relationships. In a way, they define themselves through their service to others. Overall, they are selfless, loving, caring, patient, and giving. They long to connect through safe relationships in which they can express their feelings and emotions without judgment. They seek affection and affirmation, as well as appreciation and respect. Lindsay, is that all ringing true for you?
Yep. Hit the nail on the head.
I love it. I love it.
Okay.
So let's jump right in. What's the most important, or what's something that most people should know about you as an Enneagram 2, Lindsay?
So the people who know me well already know this about me because I'm kind of an open book. But my biggest fear, I guess, is that without anything else to offer, me by myself with everything stripped away, I'm not lovable.
Hmm.
So I want to help people. I want to be there for people, but part of that stems from, well, if I don't, nobody will love me.
All right, great. So help us understand, how do you see the world around you as an Enneagram 2?
Um, I try to think the best of people. Um, I try to, sometimes to a fault, think that whatever anybody's doing is either because they're really trying their best, I guess, or if they're doing something wrong, hurt people hurt people. And so I really try to understand, like, well, why are they doing this, or what's happened in their life that's causing them to do this. So honestly, when I look around, I just see a lot of people who are hurting.
Wow. That's interesting. I think that plays to, I think Enneagram 2s sometimes, to me, when I think of an Enneagram 2, I think of someone who's extremely empathetic and sympathetic with people. And I think that honestly helps the rest of us understand how you're viewing the world. What do you, I think people that are really into the Enneagram, they love certain things about being the Enneagram number that they are, but they also really don't, they have some things that frustrate you. So let's start with what you love. What do you really love about being Enneagram 2?
I think one of the things that I love most is that I feel like I am really good at feelings and emotions, and I'm good at helping other people feel comfortable in their feelings and emotions, or validating what people are feeling. And I'm also really great at helping people. And I love that I am able to see a need and know how best to meet it most of the time.
Yeah, I can imagine that's got to have a lot of just fulfillment at the end of the day, and kind of build up your own self-worth. Do you find, this is not on one of the questions, this is just me
Okay.
listening to you talk, do you find that your self-worth is defined a lot by what you're able to do for other people?
Yes. Yeah.
how, how does that play out? What's that look like for you in your daily life, of like finding that self-worth?
Um, I mean, honestly, so I have health problems. I get migraines, I have endometriosis. So on a day when I am in bed because I can't get out of bed, those are my hardest days because I'm not helping my family. I'm not making breakfast for them. I'm not meeting anybody's needs except for my own. And those are the days where I have to remind myself it's okay to have grace for yourself. Like, this is out of my control. There's nothing, I've
Yeah.
done what I can do. But I really, those are the days where Blake has to be like, it's okay that you're in bed. This is just life. That's why we're married, because we're partners and I can help you. And the kids are really helpful. But those are the days where I feel like, oh, well, I have nothing to offer. So are they still going to love me?
Wow.
Yeah.
So man, I feel like that's a great illustration for us to understand kind of what motivates you. So let's talk about um, so we talked about what you love about being an Enneagram 2. What frustrates you about being an Enneagram 2? What are the things that frustrate you about that?
Well, it is frustrating for me that I find so much worth in what I'm able to do. I wish that I could just see, like, oh, I have value and worth outside of what I have to offer.
Yeah,
So that's,
interesting.
yeah, something I'm always working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think with even just using your organization of Yet We Thrive as an example, it's an opportunity for you to kind of have that outlet to be helpful to people, and know that that outlet is always going to be there, because kids grow up and situations change in life, but you're going to have that to where you can pour into people. Is that kind of how you view it?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
it's something outside of my own home, if
Right,
that
for
makes
sure.
sense. It's something that I can do outside of these four walls. And
Yeah,
that motivates me and it gives me purpose and drive.
I love it. We're going to get into that purpose and drive in a second because I'm already guessing what wing you are. But let's get into some rapid fire questions for a second.
Okay.
So I may ask some quick follow ups about why or why not or how or things like that. But let's just go with, are you thoughtful or whimsical?
Okay, I need to know what you mean by that because, okay, no, I would say whimsical. I'm probably more whimsical.
I love
Unless
the
that response
struggle.
was thoughtful, in which case.
I love the struggle of answering that question because we got to see kind of the whole process there and just very quickly of what I
Welcome
think it
to my
feels like.
life.
What it feels like to be an Enneagram. Is this I don't know if this is the right answer or not. There's no right answer. Um, I love that. All right, are you selfish?
No.
Why don't you think you're selfish?
Okay, so when I first read this question, my instinct was to be like, well, yeah, I'm selfish, but that's because that's what we're in the church. You're just taught over and over. You're born into selfishness and you're always selfish. Obviously, I have moments where I'm selfish, but overall, most of the time, I really just want the people around me to be happy and I want to serve the people around me. And if there's a choice between two things and I'm with somebody else, I'm going to let them pick first because I want them to be happy. And I don't, their happiness is more important to me than whether I get the blue or the pink cup.
Gotcha. Yeah, when I was thinking about this question too, I thought to myself, there's probably Enneagram twos and nines will be the only ones that honestly say they're not selfish. Everybody else is going to be like, well, of course I'm selfish. Uh, what do you envy?
I envy people who can just be themselves all the time.
Really? Why
Yeah.
why do you envy them?
Because this would be getting into my wing, but I tend to emulate the people around me, I guess. And sometimes that's a really good thing, and sometimes it's not a good thing. And
Yeah.
so instead of being true to who I am, I will just blend in sometimes. And I envy people who can just be who they are, carefree, and that's hard for me.
Okay.
I can do
Okay.
it, but it doesn't come naturally.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
takes a little bit of work.
Yeah.
Sure. I love this question because your company's called Yet We Thrive. So what do you thrive on?
I thrive on community. So whether it and community and connecting. So whatever that looks like, it can look all sorts of different ways. It could be connecting at Disney World, or it could be connecting across the table over a cup of coffee. I just love to connect with people.
I love that. So we alluded a little bit to your wing so far. I'm not gonna guess. I'm just gonna ask you, what is your predominant wing, and how can you tell?
3.
Yeah, that
Um,
would have been nice.
yeah. I would say that I don't wing 1 as much because I'm not a perfectionist. I like things to be just so, but if it's not perfect, I'm like, oh well, so is life. That's fine. Nothing's perfect.
Hmm.
Um, I don't mind breaking the rules sometimes. Um, and I don't have this like inner critic that's telling me whether I'm good or bad necessarily all the time. But I do wing 3 because I care deeply what people think about me. I want to fit in any scenario that I'm in. Most any, not any, but most of them. I do have a lot of drive and a lot of ambition. And on the Myers Briggs, I don't remember the letters, but performer is the title of it, and that sits with the wing 3 or sits with a 3 on the Enneagram pretty well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I would have guessed that as well. I mean, there's um, not too many twos. I think that don't wing three that can kind of stay as motivated as you are, especially as a stay-at-home parent. I know you homeschool as well, and so you have all those types of things going on, but you're still you still have that drive, you still have that performance motivation. My next question is, what ways do you feel, if any, defective or incomplete?
Um, I feel like I have to be a lot of things to a lot of people, and that's just not true.
Hmm.
And I wish that I didn't feel that way all the time, if that makes sense.
No, it does for sure. So with that, how do you best interact with people if that's kind of where the defective or the incomplete stuff kind of comes from? How do you best interact with people?
Um, I think a lot of it just comes down to being honest and transparent. You know, like if somebody asks me for my help with something as a two, I often feel like, oh, well, I have to say yes. If I don't say yes, then then they're not going to like me, or they won't ask me for help next time. Um, but learning to say like, no, I can't do that right now, or no, that's not a good fit for me is has it used to be impossible, but I've worked to the point where I can do that now, but it's still I never like it.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's easy or difficult for you to be your true self around people?
Difficult. Depending on who I'm with. If I'm with the people
Yeah.
that know me and love me and we've been to hell and back together, I have no problems being myself. But people that I don't know as well, it's harder for me.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common theme. You know, my first, I mean, I spoke with a three was my first interview, as far as recording dates in this series, and he kind of had the same question. And I think even as a four, I would probably answer it similarly. I'm probably just a little bit more quick to be that true self around people than maybe some other numbers. But yeah, I get that as a two. I think from what I observe, it's more about being able to be there for them than it is being open to them. Does that sound
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah. That's
Okay.
a really good way to put it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a couple more questions. One more question, and then I'm going to give you a chance to kind of hit anything else that we missed. What's the most important thing to you as an Enneagram 2?
The most important thing to me is that people feel seen, known, loved, and heard and held.
I mean, I feel like you have that written down somewhere on an index card, like on your mirror or something. Like you just so readily had that ready to go. One more time for for the slow people like me in the crowd.
Seen, known, loved, and held.
Yeah, I mean
And
that's why you
heard.
need it. That's why you need it. That's why you need a good, healthy Enneagram 2 in your life right there. Because I don't know anyone, whether they're, if they're lying to themselves, they won't say, but I think everybody needs that. I think everybody needs every Enneagram number in their life. But
They do.
I think that's why Enneagram 2s are so important to have in your life right there. So before we close up with some additional resources, is there anything else that you're like, I really want people to know this? I would feel a lot better as a two if I could just get this off my chest and let people know this.
Um, appreciation is so important to a two. We love to show up for you. We love to help you out with whatever. But if you're just gonna not acknowledge, then we're not gonna want to step in again. So it doesn't even have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be like I'm throwing you a party because you brought me dinner. Just a thank you. We really needed this tonight. Just a simple non-recognition will shut a two down really fast.
Hmm.
And so just a simple, hey, thanks. That was really helpful. Is all we really need.
Just some acknowledgement.
Just some acknowledgement. And also to be given a break sometimes, or to tell us, hey, you can slow down. You don't need to do everything. Give yourself
Hmm.
a break. Or you're good enough, even though you're not doing XYZ. You're enough.
Man, there's so much in there. So you talked about being able to tell a two that it's okay for them to take a break. How do you do that? How does someone who's not an Enneagram 2 successfully, tactfully communicate that to an Enneagram 2 that, hey, you need to take a break without them. Because I think a lot of times people fear with an Enneagram 2 that if I ask you to take a break, like if I see we're in a room and I can see that you're a little bit overwhelmed and I say, Lindsay, I think it's okay if you just kind of go sit down over there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fear is that for most people to say that to a 2 is that they feel like that they're going to be offended by it
Mm-hmm.
rather than being gifted by it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
How do you do that?
Well, it can't just be anybody. It has to be somebody who you know and love and trust. And it can't come across as we don't need to. That can't be the vibe. But if you have some acknowledgement, hey, I know you have so much on your plate right now, and I want you to take care of yourself right now. Can you please do that for me by just sitting down and taking a break?
Encouragement with that dose of acknowledgement that we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
they have to be in your inner circle. I get that for sure.
Yeah.
And the not needing part, I think it's important. I think that's a good note, I think, for the rest of us for Enneagram 2s, is just because we're asking you to take a break or to rest or take care of yourself is not we need to make sure that we're communicating that it's not because we don't need them, right? But it's because we care about them enough to see them and go, we need you at your best.
Yes.
And so in order for you to be at your best, this is what we need.
Yes.
Got it.
We need you enough that we can't have you burn out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if a 2 hears that, then they're like, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can go rest because that's what you need from me right now.
Yes. And also then it's permission to go rest. Sometimes we just need the permission to rest.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I want to acknowledge and appreciate you right now for being this episode. I want to make sure that's super public.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so nervous. Please come back. Seriously.
I will.
Okay, cool. I love Lindsay. I'm so thankful for how just open and honest she is. I know that's difficult sometimes for 2s, and especially for 2-wing 3s. And I know when I had my Enneagram 3 interview, it was difficult for him to open up, but he was in a really healthy place in his life at the time, or still is right now. And so I just felt like I could get that out of him. So I think a good mark of a good, healthy person, Enneagram aside, is that they can be open and honest about themselves without fear of judgment or self-confidence issues. And so I want to say that I see that in you, Lindsay, and I'm so thankful for people like you, and people like you who can do that. So thanks for being a part of this today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy and a pleasure.
I want to let everybody know just a couple of resources one more time. On Instagram, you can follow Lindsay and what she's doing by being an amazing blessing to women all over the place. You can follow them at Yet We Thrive. Is where the most action is, I'm told, but then you can also find out more about them on yetwethrive.com. I also want to let you know that if you're interested in furthering understanding more of other people's Enneagram numbers and kind of what these things look like, there's three places I will always send you for this. I'm not a certified Enneagram coach. I'm just kind of leaning into the conversation a little bit, but Jackie Brewster, you can find her enneagramwithjb.com or at enneagramwithjb on Instagram or anything like that. She puts out some amazing, great resources every day. Also, Beth McCord, you can find her at yourenneagramcoach.com. Her and her husband are both really amazing with this through the lens of the gospel, which I super appreciate. And then if you're just now diving into it and you're trying to understand any of this stuff, I want to encourage you to go read. There's a book by Ian Morgan Cron called The Road Back to You. All of those things will, I think, further help you understand how we can interact and better each other through the lens of the Enneagram. So that's it for this episode. We'll be back with another Enneagram number soon and another episode next Thursday. Until then, we'll talk to you next time on the Winning in Life Without Losing Your Mind podcast.